Hello everyone, welcome to my Python tutorial. Let us discuss about tuples in this video. Tuples are sequence of values separated by a comma. We have already discussed about the properties of tuple. Now let us discuss what are the operations applicable on this sequence data type. But before that, what is a sequence data type? Sequence data type signifies that the order of retrieval of elements are same as that of the input order. That is, if we create a list and input the list elements as 1, 2, 3, when we use a for loop, the order of retrieval is same as the order in which we inserted the elements. And now let's see what are the available sequence data types. List, strings, byte sequence, byte arrays and range objects. Now let us discuss about the operations which we can perform on these sequence data types. We can perform concatenation, replication, membership, slicing. We have already discussed a few of these, so let's dive in to know how they are implemented on a tuple. Let us begin our practical session with definition of a tuple. Generally, enclosing elements within parentheses isn't mandatory, though it's a good practice to do so. Now, to initialize an empty tuple, we need to place a parenthesis to indicate the variable is of type tuple. One thing to hold in mind while creating an empty tuple is that we cannot append or extend it later because a tuple is immutable. Now we define a tuple T where on the right side we have values separated by a comma and we did not enclose them in parentheses, but it's taken as a tuple, which is evident from the print statement. The next snippet demonstrates the immutable nature of a tuple. It raises an error when we try to manipulate value of a tuple using index. Moving ahead to the operations possible on this sequence, we have concatenation right on the front. Now moving on to repetition, which is next on the row, we can multiply a tuple by integer to duplicate the values in a tuple as many times as required. In this case, we have created a new tuple T3, which is obtained by replicating the elements of tuple 1 4 times. And the third operation is the membership operation. The membership operators are in and not in, which are used to find whether the element is present in the sequence or not, as demonstrated. Now we have len, min, max and CMP, which stands for the compare operation, which compares two tuples and returns 1 if first tuple is greater than the second, and 0 if they are equal, and -1 if the second tuple is greater than the first tuple. I have created a function CMP for compare because Python 3 does not support CMP. Now, when we create a tuple of length 1, even if we enclose it in a parenthesis, we could see that it's considered as a primitive data type to which it belongs and not a tuple, so we could place a trailing comma to make it a tuple, which is weird. But that's how we make the compiler understand it's not an integer or float or a string, but it's a tuple. So as a continuation to the above fact, the compiler ignores the trailing comma if the length is more than 1. And if the length of tuple is 1, it prints the comma. And the final concept is known as unpacking of a tuple, which is reverse of what we did when we initialized it without parentheses. We place n number of variables in the left side of the equal sign and a tuple variable on the right side, where n is the length of the tuple, and now the elements will contain the corresponding value based on the sequence. We can use index to access the element of a tuple. We can also use negative indexing. We can perform slicing on tuples as well. A tuple within a tuple is a nested tuple. So that's all about tuples and sequence in Python. And to discover how to initialize the nested tuple and on how to unpack a nested tuple, you can refer my Jupyter notebook. You can access the notebook from my GitHub profile. I have provided the link in my description box. Meanwhile, let me thank you guys for spending your time here, and it's a good initiative on your behalf to learn Python. I hope to see you guys on my next video. I hope you're practicing more snippets. Thank you once again. I hope you guys enjoyed it. See you guys on my next video. Thank you.